been working together for a handful of years now. It's great to see everything you guys are doing for drivers and that market over there. I figured I'd just reach out and have you on here for a little bit just to share more.
Our truck parking facility is Philadelphia I-95 Truck and Trailer Park. My name is Zeke. I'm the director of operations here. So we've got about 140 acres of truck parking, warehouse space, office space, and then there's a repair facility on the property as well. We've got a diesel fuel island and a cat scale. We've got a mix of a bunch of different yards. Behind me, you can see our drop yard. So that's free for all parking, utilized by large fleets with lots of drivers for the most part. We've got assigned spaces. The yard behind me is fully secured, gated, guarded 24/7, 365. I have other yards that are secured with access gates and some yards that don't have a security gate at all. So really kind of catering to what everybody needs, whether it's monthly or daily parking. We kind of do it all here.
It's always been cool to see what you guys are doing in the Philadelphia and the broader Philadelphia market for drivers. I figured we get back on here so that you just give us an update on how the yard's doing. More drivers could find through this channel or other yard owners who as well follow us and ask us questions about what other yard operators are doing today to just to run their yards more efficiently, maybe get better ideas, maybe prevent any issues that you've come across. They don't have to. So share a little bit about the origin story, right? For the people watching, a little bit more about the yard, the name, location, etc.
Sure. Yeah. So the origin story is this has been a travel plaza for quite some time. The current ownership group purchased it over 10 years ago at this point. I joined about 4 years ago. So when I joined 4 years ago, we didn't have a name. We didn't have a website. People kind of found us just from driving by. The yard had quite a bit of empty space. It wasn't very organized. We just kind of leased areas to different folks and had a pretty basic lease and went about things that way. So when I joined 4 years ago, I quickly kind of realized it'd be a good idea to have a name and a website. So we came up with the name Philadelphia I-95 Truck and Trailer Park because we're about a half a mile from exit 37 of I-95, right outside of Philadelphia. And then after that, I kind of set about organizing the yards. So the yard you see behind me has always been gated and guarded and secured 24/7, 365. But we kind of defined a portion of the yard to be assigned spaces, a portion for our daily parking customers that's close to the guard shack on camera, really high security area, and then the drop yard, which is what you see right behind me. So, something to consider if you're going to open up your own yard is who are you trying to cater towards? Do you have a lot of folks driving by on the highway that just want to come stay for a day or two while they get their break? Or are you in an area where a lot of drivers actually live or where fleets might want to set up shop and have a terminal?
Yeah.
That's going to really determine kind of how you structure your yard. We're located in an area where I want to serve all of those markets. So, we have a drop yard for fleets. We've got a bunch of large fleets that use it as a terminal. Drivers can come park their car, get into their truck, grab a trailer, or they can just drop a trailer for the weekend, whatever it is. No assigned spot. Drivers know they just come and they've got 10 acres to park. Then I've also got the assigned parking space, which is going to be sometimes large companies that want to have their own area, or a lot of times smaller guys or mid-sized companies that, each driver has their own spot. They pull their truck out of the space, car parks in the space, they're over the road during the week, and then they're back on the weekends. And for my daily parking, there's some drivers that go out on the road for 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time, and then they come
Yeah.
home for 10 days. It's cheaper for them to just, instead of having a monthly spot, they use us every month or so for a long stay at home when they're on their break. So, if you're starting a yard, it's important to think about those types of things.
Did you mention that it already had the daily, weekly, monthly, or did you implement the different options for drivers?
So we always had daily and monthly parking. We get asked about weekly quite a bit. It's not something that we're personally interested in doing. We've got a pretty good monthly customer base. And then for the daily parking, we personally don't see a benefit to offering weekly. Our daily parking's pretty close to full every weekend as it is. And then, guys that stay during the week, it's just kind of you pay our rate. We've thought about it. I don't think it's something we're going to do, but I could see it being beneficial in some areas.
And that was early. You said 4 years ago when when you took over. Were there any immediate challenges that you noticed out the gate? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, one of the hardest things to kind of get under control when you're operating a large truck parking yard or even a small one is making sure you get paid timely. It's you got guys. If you got a guy that's parking one truck, he might be over the road. How are you collecting his payment? And how are you keeping track of that? That's one of the things that Rig Hut's really helped us with the most. Probably the thing I'm most grateful for from you guys is the automatic payments coming out the first of the month. It makes it easy for the drivers and it makes it easy for us. I make way less phone calls today than I did 4 years ago trying to collect rent each month. And when I do have to make that phone call, I just get them set up in Rig Hut with an updated payment information. It's usually just because they have an expired credit card or maybe their payment bounced, whatever it is. Once I get them set up in there, hopefully next month I don't have to call them again. So that's
Sure.
been the thing I've liked most about working with you guys over the past few years.
And physically in the yard, what do you see? You have any synergy between the guys who maybe run the bays or the mechanical shops with the guys that are parking there? Do they work usually on what's on the guys on the yard, or do they sometimes have visitors come in and get work and then come right out, or how does that look?
Yeah. So we do not allow any work in any of our yards outside of changing tires and windshields. It's really, really difficult to manage outside vendors coming into the yard. Not only is it a liability issue, a guy's under a truck and gets hurt, that opens liability, but these guys can tend to leave a mess. So unfortunately, kind of the few bad apples ruin it for the people who might do it right. But even with just allowing tires, I see tires end up in my yard all the time that I have to deal with. So, that's something I'm constantly thinking about is do I have to not allow tire vendors in? How can I get it so that I'm not cleaning up tires and these become a cost for me when I'm trying to allow a convenience for my customer? But any work outside of that, we don't allow in the yard. It just creates too many problems and also reduces the security of your yard. I mean, anybody could show up to your secure yard then in a truck with a repair logo on it and say, "Hey, I'm here to do XYZ." And if your policy is to allow those people in, they could come in and steal things. Who
Yeah.
knows what they're doing in your yard?
We just did a small bid on cargo theft and security at truck parking yards, ranking what is a highly secure yard, because that's constantly the more and more that is the consistent, search that drivers look for when wanting to park their rig, but also if they even have a fleet as well. Walk us through what security looks like, or what's like the daily operation in terms of a driver comes in, they're looking for parking. What does that all look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So every truck that enters our property, something we put in place a couple years ago is we took a license plate reader camera and we put one on each side of our property at the entrance. We only have one main entrance to this property, and it reads the DOTs off the trucks because the DOT and the MC and the truck number are really what's going to kind of help you figure out who did what. And we have cameras all throughout the property. I mean, I can turn and show you. I got a screen here that rotates through. I think I have 50 plus cameras on it. But with truck parking, it's hard, right? You got a 13-foot, 6-inch trailer, sitting there. How can you see what's going on in the yard? So, really, what we try and do is we try and figure out who's coming in and out of the property. And then we have cameras to see, okay, that truck was here, it left. This is the truck number that took it. So, we try to do our best with the cameras to start. Then the second thing is, access gates, which we have, punching in codes, logging who punched in that code. We have a gate that, every company gets their own unique code. And then I have cameras that look at who's punching in that code as well. And then the most secure thing you can do is have a guard 24/7,
Yeah.
365, which we have as well. But, I have some customers, they want to allow third party vendors to come pick up their trailer. You need to let me know in advance. I've had to recently set parameters around third party vendors are allowed to come get a trailer if you give, 12 or 24-hour notice to me so that I can let my guards know because I understand I want to be flexible with my customers, but also it's not a very secure yard if anybody can go up to a guard and say, "Hey, I'm picking up this trailer for this so and so," and we let them in. So the security is always tough because even with fences, guys can cut them, they can come in. We just try and do our best to not, not let anything be our fault. Really, do everything we
Yeah.
can to help keep our customers' equipment safe.
Yeah. Well, everything you're saying is very, is again, it's consistent with a lot of the top yard operators that we talk to. They all have they come across the same problem day in and day out. When they have guys who need to pick up trailers, it's always making sure that the person responsible for picking it up should be there, and then having all like the well, in our world, the booking and all the reservation details I can reconcile with the people that are coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
The yard today, is there a future where there's more land to expand? Have you looked at other areas in your current market, or right outside of it, or in other parts of the country where you think you could scale your brand and run another operation like what you have over there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been pretty much sold out of assigned parking spaces, and my drop yard's been full for trucks and trailers for the better part of 2 years now. I've got about 130 different tenants, and I've been saying for a year, if I had 400 spaces in on my property open right now, I'd have them filled within 2 weeks. So I would love to. We've got 5 or 6 undeveloped acres. Something to consider if you're looking into buying a yard and developing, especially, is what's the township going to make you do to develop those, and are they going to give you a use and occupancy permit for truck parking? So one of our strategic advantages being in the town we're in, which is Ben Salem, is we're the first exit outside of Philadelphia. So for garaging your trucks, your insurance, if you park with me and say you park with me, is a lot cheaper than if you park 2 miles down the road within the jurisdiction of Philadelphia. Insurance always charges more if you're within city limits. The other thing is Ben Salem's not giving out use and occupancy permits for truck parking. Most townships don't want truck parking. Everybody wants their stuff, but they don't want to see the trucks parked in their
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, we're grandfathered in, but they're not giving out any new ones. So, just because it's zoned industrial doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to park trucks there, or it might be a huge fight. And for those 5 or 6 acres we want to develop, this is a legacy property. So we only have limited stormwater management to develop those acres. We're trying to figure out what the DEP, what the township's going to make us do in terms of stormwater management, because, putting stormwater management on 40 acres to get 4 or 5 extra acres, it's a cost benefit analysis that might not make sense. So there's a lot of things you might not think about that go into developing and maintaining yards that are kind of outside your control. Sure. With truck parking, it's all about location, location, location. So, you gotta understand whether or not there's a base of drivers that want to park in your area. Whether it's guys that are passing through and need daily parking, or guys that want monthly parking. Some areas, if you're not close to where trucks are, even though it's the perfect parcel of land, it's going to be hard to fill those spaces. The other thing to consider is the layout of the parking. Is it a square or rectangle is the best? The weirder the shape, kind of the less trucks you can generally fit, and the harder it's going to be to lease. Do you have lights and electricity? Lighting's really important as well.
The three important things that we see across every yard is you need the ability to enable a transaction, even if it's as far as just some way of collecting cash to be able to pay online, or all the way to paying online. You need security, some sort of security, whether it's a fence all the way up to a guard, access control, and then security, access control, surveillance, and then the enablement of payments.
Yeah.
Those three things.
So, yeah, I mean, any yard you're going to purchase, you're going to want to figure out how you're going to get customers, and how you're going to get those customers to pay you. If you're buying a yard and you just want one customer on it, sure, you can pay by check. But if you want to have multiple customers on the yard, I can tell you from experience, it's really hard to collect that income and to kind of manage that yard on your own. So partners like Rig Hut are really helpful with that. And I know Rig Hut's now doing the access security as well. So that's a solution that's definitely helpful, especially if you're going to operate a remote yard, something where you have a team that's going to support you. I'm here 5 days a week. So when my access security goes down, I have to fix it. It stinks when I'm not here. But, if you're not at your yard, I know the team at Rig Hut's really, really responsive. They always get, if I shoot them a text, they're getting back to me right away. Problems are solved right away. I'm sure that carries over to the access management as well, even though I'm not currently using you guys for that.
Last thing is knowing what you know today, speaking to drivers on site. What do you think is like the future of this? Do you think there is a market to replicate with the operation that you have in other markets? Do you think the truck parking world, as it continues to transform and modernize a bit, to be able to accept all sorts of drivers, all sorts of vehicles? What do you think the future looks like?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an opportunity to replicate what we're doing here in other markets. One of the challenging things we bump into is land prices. So you have to dig pretty hard to find a price for land that makes sense for the numbers you can get in your market for truck parking. At least in our market right now, the cost to lease land for the most part makes it really prohibitive to successfully re-sublease that out to for truck parking. So, if you're considering leasing land for truck parking, I'd recommend getting a long-term lease and making sure those numbers work. But for us, we're always looking for land that's priced fairly, that we feel comfortable that we can get a good return on our purchase price. We'd be looking to buy land for us and then, running the numbers on what we think we can get per space and how many spaces we can get. But it's definitely replicable in that regard. We know how to do it, and it's something that we're kind of always on the hunt for in our area.
Right. No, this is really great. I appreciate the time, Zeke, as always.
Yeah, thanks, Jose.